My wife cheated on me with her high school sweetheart. It turned out her son wasn't even mine. I gathered the evidence and filed for divorce, determined to leave her with nothing. But then the world ended. Before I could even process the humiliation, I was devoured by zombies, dying with my eyes wide open. My soul lingered, drawn to my ex-wife. I found her, her lover, and the boy living a quiet life in a remote farmhouse, surviving the apocalypse and living to a ripe old age. The rage was so intense it finally tore my soul to pieces. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day we were supposed to sign the divorce papers. My wife Chloe was putting on a show, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, can you really be this cruel?" I feigned emotion. "Chloe, I've decided to give you the house." K.H. Lowe's crying stopped instantly. She stared at me, disbelief washing over her face as if she'd heard me wrong. "Ethan, what did you just say?" I let out a heavy sigh, my face a mask of sincerity. "Chloe, even though you cheated, I still have feelings for you and for Leo. I can't just throw you out on the street with nothing. It doesn't feel right. So I'm giving you the house in Bellevue." I continued, "Consider it a final settlement for all the years we had together." A flash of pure ecstasy lit up her eyes. She lunged forward to hug me, but I sidestepped her smoothly. "Ethan, you're a good man," she stammered, her voice trembling. But I could see the contempt lurking behind the tears clear as day. "There's one condition, though," I added, my brow furrowing slightly. "Anything, Ethan, tell me, I'll agree to anything. If you want me to still see you sometimes, I can do that." The offer made my stomach turn. It figured a traitor would have no shame. I shook my head. "No, that's not necessary. What you did, it killed any desire I had for romance. I just want to find a quiet place somewhere to be alone." "So we'll trade," I said, getting to the point. "I'll give you the Bellevue house. You give me that old farmhouse your boyfriend Rick owns out in the sticks, the one his parents left him." At the mention of her lover's name, a flicker of embarrassment crossed her face, quickly replaced by a triumphant smile. She clearly thought the shock of her affair had broken my brain. A multi-million-dollar home in the city for a dilapidated shack in the mountains. She must have felt like she'd won the lottery. "Of course I'll make him trade with you," she said, her voice eager, terrified I might change my mind. "He also has to agree to one other small condition," I added. "Done. Whatever it is, I'll make sure he does it. You'll be satisfied, I promise." I drove with K.H. Lowe out to the countryside, back to the small, forgotten town where she and her lover, Rick Peterson, had grown up. Soon enough, a rustic farmhouse appeared before us. It was perfectly secluded, nestled in a small valley with mountains on three sides and miles of empty wilderness all around. A clear stream trickled past the property. It was like something out of postcard. In the yard, Rick was trying to entertain the boy, Leo. "I want to go to the playground. I want McDonald's. I want to see a movie. I hate it here." While I heard Leo's whining from the car and felt a cold smirk touch my lips. Rick looked miserable, his patience worn thin. "Shut up or I'll give you something to cry about." The threat only made Leo cry louder. "Rick Peterson, are you insane? Who the hell do you think you are?" Yelling at him. Chloe burst out of the car and stormed over, unleashing her fury on him. When Leo saw me, he shouted, "Daddy," and ran over to hug my legs. "Daddy, take me with you. I'm sorry. I don't want Rick Daddy anymore. You're my real daddy." I looked down at the crying child and felt absolutely nothing. This was a far cry from how he acted when K.H. Lowe used to sneak him out for secret meetings with Rick. Back then, Rick was the hero who bought him candy and toys while I was the boring dad who worked too much. He had even screamed that he wanted Rick to be his real dad. The kid was nothing but a little traitor you couldn't buy loyalty from. "What are you doing here?" Rick glared at me, his eyes darting between me and Chloe, thick with suspicion. "Watch your tone." K.H. Lowe hissed, shooting me a nervous glance, afraid I'd get angry. Rick's face burned with rage, and he looked like he was about to swing at me. I pushed Leo away. "Go ahead," I said to K.H. Lowe with a thin smile. "Tell him the deal." She nodded eagerly and quickly explained my offer. Rick just stood there dumbfounded, staring at me as if I had grown a second head. "You for real?" he asked, his voice laced with disbelief. I snorted. "My name is Ethan Cole. My vort is my bunt. It's a done deal." Suddenly, Rick's face split into a massive, greedy grin. "No problem. The house is yours, and your house is ours for me and Chloe." I glanced around the property, taking a deep breath of the clean mountain air. The house is a gift for Chloe for the years she spent with me. But you, I said, turning my gaze back to him, you wrecked my marriage. The damage you caused is real, and for that I need an apology. No problem, I'm sorry, Rick said instantly. The words cheap and fast. I looked at him with disgust. I don't feel the sincerity. How about this? Get on your knees and give me 50 head to the ground, apologies, then we'll be even. After that, we'll go sign the deeds over. Rick's face contorted in anger, but before he could explode, Chloe slapped him hard across the face. Neil, get on your damn knees now. What's 50 apologies? He could ask for 100 and you do it. She shrieked. Or do you want me to stay here with you and eat dirt in this god-forsaken corner of the world? Reality crashed back in a Rick. The thought that 50 moments of humiliation could get him a multi-million-dollar house in Bellevue made the decision for him. He dropped to his knees in the dirt before me with a thud. Thump, thump, thump. His forehead hit the hard-packed earth again and again. I stood over him, a dark satisfaction blooming in my chest. Vindicating the humiliation of my past life was one thing, but survival was everything. This was just an appetizer. After 50 reps, Rick was dizzy, his forehead scraped and bloody, but he couldn't hide the triumphant smirk on his face. Under their expectant gazes, I finally spoke. Let's go. Time to sign the divorce papers and transfer the deeds. It took half the day, but everything was finalized. The house deeds were transferred and my marriage was officially over. What a complete dumbass, Rick muttered, a bandage now wrapped around his head. He looked at me like I was the biggest sucker in the world. My now ex-wife Chloe tossed her hair back, a smug look on her face. That's right. He slapped him 50 times. I interrupted her. And I'll give you $1,000 a month in support. The next second, smack, smack, smack. The sharp sounds of slapping echoed through the county clerk's office. A dead silence fell over the room. Everyone just stared as K.H. Lowe wound up and repeatedly struck Rick across the face. Rick was completely stunned, humiliated in front of a crowd of strangers, getting slapped in the next week by the woman he'd had an affair with. He wanted to run, but his feet felt like they were nailed to the floor. He couldn't. $000 a month was on a line. What if he left and I didn't pay? Too late, I said calmly. Down to 900. Panic flashed in K.H. Lowe's eyes. She stopped holding back, putting all her strength into each slab, ignoring the sting in her own palm. Finally, 50 slabs were done. Rick's face was a swollen purple mess. His forehead bandage was seeping blood. I doubt even his own mother would recognize him now. Of course, his parents were dead. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to trade the farmhouse. I burst out laughing, turned on my heel and walked away, leaving a battered Rick, a beaming Chloe, and a room full of bewildered onlookers. I had my fun. Now it was time to prepare for the end of the world. In 7 days, the blood moon would appear. A red light would wash over the earth, and 90% of the population exposed to it would undergo a genetic mutation, turning into bloodthirsty, mindless zombies. The apocalypse would officially begin. My goal was simple. Survive and watch the 2 people who betrayed me get eaten alive. First on the list, sell my company. I went straight to my main competitor's CEO. My company was worth a solid $5 million. I offered it to her for $3 million. Ava Sterling's eyes, sharp and intelligent, studied me from across her desk. A small smile played on her lips. Ethan Cole, have you lost your mind? I stared back at the stunning, powerful woman, completely unmoved. Yes or no? Ava, you have 1 minute. If you pass, I'm with the next buyer. Her gaze deepened. I heard you got divorced. I waved a hand dismissively and started to stand up. I'll buy it, she said, her voice firm. Deal. $3 million wired to my account. Added to the $500,000 I already had, my total capital was now $3.5 million. With the money secured, I hired a general contractor and brought his team to the farmhouse. I want this place turned into a fortress, I told them. A steel-reinforced concrete wall, 360 degrees coverage, no blind spots. I want a fallout shelter, solar panels, a high-voltage electric fence, a rainwater collection system, an underground walk-in freezer, an entertainment room, a well, all the utilities completely self-sufficient. And I want it all done in 6 days. The contractor stared at me, then at his small crew, utterly baffled. Buddy, are you joking? I smirked. $1.5 million. $200 grand up front. The man's breathing quickened, his eyes turning red with greed. You got it, boss. I'll pull a 100 guys onto this job if I have to. We'll get it done. Good. I transferred the deposit, convinced it was real. He was instantly a whirlwind of activity, making calls, ordering materials, and getting to work. I had no doubt he'd handle any permits or problems that came up. Next, I went to a truck rental agency and got a heavy-duty box truck and a refrigerated truck, parking them in a secluded lot. Then the shopping spree began. Medicine, seeds, a drone surveillance system, a satellite phone, food, drinks and weapons, crossbows and ammo from a guy I knew who operated in a legal gray area. As for the meat, I'd have to wait for the freezers to be built. I bought everything I could think of in quantities that would last a lifetime. For 3 straight days I worked alone, quietly filling both trucks to the brim. I had already contacted a local slaughterhouse and placed a massive order for pork, beef, and lamb. Back at the farmhouse, the construction site was a hive of activity. Over 100 workers toiled around the clock. The progress was astonishing. The 3-story house, including the basement shelter, was already taking shape. The perimeter wall was up, enclosing the house and a 1,000-foot garden plot. I had them divide into sections. They had even diverted a channel from the nearby stream to run through the property. We had a well and rainwater collection to avoid contamination from zombies or poison. 6 days later, I stood before my impenetrable sanctuary. Immensely satisfied, I paid the contractor the remaining balance without hesitation. He was ecstatic. He made a fortune on this one job. The gate was made of a bulletproof alloy with fingerprint access. The walls had no blind spots. The top was lined with a high-voltage electric fence. The well water was crystal clear. The channel from a stream was covered with a thick steel grate, allowing water in but keeping everything else out. The underground freezer system alone had cost me nearly $200,000. $5 massive 150 FT cold rooms that blasted Arctic air. It was perfect. After the last worker left, I drove the 2 trucks onto the property and began the back-breaking work of unloading everything, working through the night. As the sun began to rise, I finally finished collapsing on the ground in exhaustion. 6 in 1 day left. My eyes burned, but I felt no fatigue. I got into the refrigerated truck and headed for the slaughterhouse. 50 pigs, 50 lambs, 20 cows. It took 5 round trips. A person eats maybe 40 pigs in a lifetime. I probably had enough meat to last forever. On my final trip, I had just pulled out of the cattle ranch when a sleek black Maybach blocked the road. My face darkened, worried about a last-minute complication. Then a graceful, alluring figure emerged from the car. Ava Sterling. I was surprised. I got out of the truck, my expression grim. "What do you want?" Ava didn't answer right away. She circled me slowly, a thoughtful look on her face. "Ethan, let's not play games. I've been following you for days." My eyes narrowed. "Oh, when did you become so interested in me? We've been rivals for years, Ethan. Sometimes your enemy knows you better than you know yourself. You suddenly get a divorce, sell your company at a massive loss, and I hear you even gave your ex-wife that beautiful house in Belev. It's bizarre. You probably don't know, but her place is the talk of the town. Friends and relatives over every day. She's on top of the world. None of this is like you," she finished. Her face a mixture of curiosity and confusion. For some reason, her words barely registered. Hearing about my ex-wife's new life sparked nothing in me. I'd watch her downfall on my own terms through my own cameras. I remembered something from my past life about Ava. She had died before I did, thrown out of her own house by her husband and his mistress to be fed to the zombies. I checked my watch. 4:00 p.m. 8 hours left until the end of the world. "Since you're so curious, why don't you come with me? I'll show you something interesting," I said with a challenging smile, confident she'd refuse. A blush colored her cheeks. "Why not? What's the worst that could happen? Great, hop in." I gestured to the passenger door and climbed back into the driver's seat. Not one to back down, Ava struggled a bit but managed to pull herself up into the cab. I had to admit she was a beautiful woman, a shame she couldn't have children, which I knew was the source of her terrible marriage. The truck rumbled to life, heading back to my fortress. As dusk settled, the truck rolled through the heavy gates. With a loud bang, the alloy door sealed behind us. Ava looked at the towering walls surrounding us. a sense of claustrophobia washing over her. The vicious-looking electric fence coiled at the top only deepened her curiosity. "Ethan, what is all this? Are you building a prison?" She had no idea that by stepping inside she had sealed her fate. She wandered around taking it all in. I ignored her and started unloading the last of the meat. It was 20 cows already butchered. I used a dolly to haul the massive cuts toward the basement entrance. Ava followed me inside. The basement was lined with the stainless steel doors of the walk-in freezers. The rest of the space was stacked floor to ceiling with supplies. "Are these all freezers and all this food? Are you planning to spend the rest of your life here?" Ava's jaw was on the floor, her mind racing but unable to connect the dots. "Well, stop gawking and help me. From now on, we're partners. I'll make sure you get a bite to eat," I said casually, waving a hand at the piles of beef. Ava's expression changed and she took a step back. "What are you talking about? Who said anything about being partners?" I turned to face her. "Let's just say you got lucky you ran into me. I'll tell you the truth. Tomorrow the world ends. Believe it or not, you're insane. Take me home now." Ava was starting to regret this. She should have followed in her own car. There was no way I was driving her back. At midnight, the red light would flash. If we got stuck on the road, we'd be dead. I raised an eyebrow. "How about this? If you still won't leave tomorrow, I'll drive you myself." "No, you have to take me back right now," she insisted, now convinced I was a dangerous lunatic. Napped, losing my patience. "Either walk back yourself or call someone to pick you up. Annoy me again and I'll kick you out." "Fine," she huffed and stormed over to a corner to call her husband. "Honey, can you come pick me up? The address is I'm busy." Click. I couldn't help but let out a short, harsh laugh. I ignored her and went back to work. 7 When I finished unloading, I found Ava sitting alone by the well, silent. "Come on, let's go upstairs and make dinner. Like I said, if you still want to go tomorrow, I'll take you," I said, softening my tone slightly. She was, after all, going to be the person I spent the rest of my life with. "Okay, I'll trust you." "Just this once," Ava replied. A true professional, she had already composed herself. For dinner, we each had a grilled steak and a glass of red wine. "So you've been watching too many apocalypse movies," she said. She seemed to accept my explanation for my bizarre behavior, even if she didn't actually believe the world was ending. "At midnight, the red light comes. You'll see," I said, not bothering to argue. By staying the night, her future was set. It was better this way. It would get lonely by myself and she couldn't have children. Perfect. Suddenly, my phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, a cruel smile spread across my face. I answered and put on speaker. "Hey honey, have you eaten yet?" "It was my ex-wife, Chloe. Spit it out," I said curtly across the table. Ava rolled her eyes in my vulgarity. Well, you said you'd give me $1,000 a month. You see, it's the end of the month." K.H. Lowe's syrupy, sweet voice made me want to puke. I chuckled. "Did I say that?" K.H. Lowe's voice immediately turned frantic. "You forgot you told me to slap Rick 50 times and you pay me $000 a month." "Oh, that I was messing with you. You actually believe that?" I laughed out loud. "Ethan Cole, you son of a, I'm going to kill you." Rick's hysterical roar erupted from the phone. I held with laughter and hung up. After a moment, Ava asked, "Aren't you afraid he'll come after you?" I scoffed. "He has to survive first, and even if he made it here, what could he possibly do?" Ava nodded slowly. The place was armed like a fortress. Getting in would be impossible. My absolute certainty was starting to chip away at her disbelief. Could the world really be ending? Time ticked by. Ava stayed with me in a master bedroom. Both of us staring out the window into the pitch-black night, waiting. The seconds crawled. I began to count down, my body tense. 10, 9, 8, 7. Ava's lips curled into a mocking smile, just as I said 1. A deafening, world-shattering boom ripped through the sky. Even though I was expecting it, I jumped. Ava instinctively covered her ears and screamed. An eerie red light pierced through the cracks in the blackout curtains, bathing the room in a blood-red glow. The entire world was red. It lasted only a few seconds before vanishing. I wasn't worried. Based on my past life, anyone indoors would be safe. It was only those caught outside directly in the light who would instantly mutate into zombies. "It's here," I said quietly. "The apocalypse." Ava felt her scalp prickle with a terror she'd never known. "Go ahead, check TikTok," I told her. "The horror show is just beginning." With fumbling hands, she unlocked her phone. A few minutes later, her eyes widened in horror, her face draining of all color. Short, frantic videos of zombies attacking people were flooding her feed. It was real. The world was ending. She frantically opened a security camera app on her phone. The image that appeared on the screen made her face flush with shame and rage. I glanced over. It was a live feed of her bedroom where two people were tangled in the sheets. The man was her husband. Looks like they're still having fun. I commented dryly. They probably have no idea what's happening. Ava's eyes filled with the deep materials and getting to work. I had no doubt he'd handle any permits or problems that came up. Next, I went to a truck rental agency and got a heavy-duty box truck. I commented dryly. They probably have no idea what's happening. Ava's eyes filled with a deep hatred, but thinking of their inevitable fate, a sense of grim satisfaction took its place. In a world of zombies, the most dangerous place to be was in the middle of a city. 8. The next morning, on the roof of our sanctuary, Ava wore a pair of binoculars and ran to the edge to vomit. In a field far below, an old man was being eaten by a single zombie, his head torn open. It was a gruesome sight no normal person could handle. "It's okay, get all out, you'll get used to it," I said. "By the way, you still want me to drive you home?" After she was done, she managed a weak embarrassed smile. "Ethan, stop messing with me. I was wrong yesterday, I'm sorry," I nodded, accepting her apology. "From now on, you're in charge of cooking, okay?" At that moment, Ava was overcome with a profound sense of relief. It was a whim, a strange impulse that had brought her here. If she had gone home yesterday, she had no doubt her husband and his mistress would have sacrificed her to save themselves. A subtle, unspoken connection began to form between us. We both knew without saying a word what the future held. Ava went downstairs to make breakfast. I launched a drone to patrol the area, using its noise to lure the few zombies in sight far away from our location. After breakfast, Abe and I went to the backyard to start turning over the soil and clearing weeds for our vegetable garden. I had more than enough seeds to last for years. After only a short while, Ava was covered in a light sheen of sweat. "I used to dream about a life like this," she said, her tone a mix of amusement and exhaustion. "Just didn't think it would happen this way." "Don't overthink it," I replied with a smile. "All that matters now is staying alive." She nodded seriously, agreeing completely. That evening, Ava brought up a case of beer from the basement and cooked up a few dishes to go with it. "Tonight," she said, raising her bottle and looking at me with a playful glint in her eye, "let's get completely wasted." Her silk pajamas did little to hide the perfect curves of her body. I grinned and raised my own bottle to enjoying life. We drank until the world started to spin. Food, drink, and the end of the world. Desire followed naturally. Everything just happened. A storm of passion, fierce and relentless. Afterward, we fell into a deep, exhausted sleep. 9. I was woken up by the ringing of my phone. Groggy, I fumbled for it and answered, only realizing after a moment that it was a video call. A face I despised filled the screen. "Ethan, where are you? We're trapped by zombies. You have to find a way to save me and Leo." K.H. Lowe's face was pale and drawn, clearly terrified. My sleepiness vanished, replaced by a giddy sense of delight. "Where am I?" "Oh, I'm at Rick's old farmhouse, of course." "Zombies? Haven't seen any. It's so peaceful out here," I said, feigning confusion. K.H. Lowe's face twitched. The memory of the secluded farmhouse, the very place she had so eagerly traded away, was now a dagger in her heart. She thought she was set for life in a luxury mansion, only for the world to end and shatter her perfect dream. Can you come get me? I know you still love me. I don't want Rick anymore. I still love you." "It's horrible here, Ethan. There's zombies everywhere, oh God." Her voice broke into sobs. It looked like she hadn't slept a wink. "Who is it calling so early in the morning?" A lazy feminine voice murmured from beside me. I turned the camera to show Ava's beautiful face. K.H. Lowe's side of the call erupted in a shriek. "Who is that woman?" The scream fully woke Ava up. She leaned over and planted a kiss on my cheek. "I'm his baby, of course. I hope you die." "Ethan, I don't care. You have to come get me. If you don't, I'm going to die. There's not much food left in the fridge. Even if the zombies don't get me, I'll starve." K.H. Lowe's shameless pleading was astounding. "Ava, for breakfast, I'd like a French steak with a nice Bordeaux." "Of course, darling. I'll go get it ready." We completely ignored her impotent rage, seamlessly working together to rub our happiness in her face. I could practically hear K.H. Lowe's teeth grinding. From her end of the video, a new voice roared. "You, what are you doing?" It was Rick, followed by the sound of a hard slab. "It was you. You traded my safe house for this death trap right before the world ended. You're a curse. I'm going to kill you." You. Next came my ex-wife's pitiful screams. "Doc, the phone must have fallen somewhere convenient because I had a perfect view of Chloe now crying and begging for mercy." "You jerk. Don't hit my mommy." Leo, the little traitor, ran over and started hitting Rick. Rick, in a blind rage, kicked the boy with full force, sending him flying across the room where he lay motionless. Leo. K.H. Lowe let out a gut-wrenching scream. She did at least care about her son. "Damn it, you ruined my mood." Rick snarled, his rage momentarily spent. He walked over to the phone and glared into the camera. "You see that? You better drive over here and save us, or I'll beat your ex-wife to death." In his mind, I still cared deeply for Chloe. Why else would I have given her the house? I wrapped my arm around Ava, pulling her fully into the frame. "Be my guest, buddy. Do whatever you want." Rick's eyes turned red when he saw AA's stunning face, a toxic cocktail of envy and hatred twisting his features. Click, I hung up. A moment later, as if struck by an idea, Ava had me take a bunch of photos of us together. Then she ran around the property taking pictures of the garden, the freezers stocked with meat, and our comfortable living space. I knew what she was doing. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. She was going to torment her own cheating husband. When I saw her next, she looked radiant, as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She had clearly vented years of pan-out frustration. 10. Life settled into a pleasant, almost idyllic routine. Every day I'd patrol with a drone, luring any nearby zombies away and checking the stream to ensure our water supply was safe. And of course, I'd send videos of our delicious meals to my ex-wife's family just to watch them lose their minds with rage before begging me for help. The feeling of revenge was intoxicating. Today's lunch was particularly lavish. Ava had prepared a feast. "What's the special occasion?" I asked with a smile. Ava's eyes sparkled. "My husband pushed his mistress into a crowd of zombies. Then he didn't make it out either. They're both dead. No wonder she was in such a good mood." It made me think of Chloe. I pulled up the security feed for the Bellevue house. Holy crap! The scene that greeted me was shocking. The floor-to-ceiling windows of the living room were crawling with zombies, their hands clawing desperately at the glass. The windows were covered in cracks, and as I watched, they finally gave way, shattering inward with a deafening crash. My ex-wife and her family, who had been hiding on the stairs, screamed in terror. The next thing I saw left me completely stunned. Rick grabbed Leo, lifted him into the air, and over K.H. Lowe's horrified screams threw the boy directly into the swarm of zombies. The zombies immediately abandoned their pursuit of the adults and descended on the small boy, covering him in a writhing mass of bodies. His screams lasted for less than a second. Ava and I looked at each other, speechless. The sheer evil of humanity was on full display. They say even a tiger won't eat its own cub. Rick Peterson was something beyond monstrous. K.H. Lowe's face was a mask of utter despair and grief. But when a zombie lunged in her direction, survival instincts kicked in and she turned and ran, following Rick. I quickly switched camera feeds and saw Rick run into the garage. He jumped into my old armored SUV, a custom-built beast. K.H. Lowe scrambled in right after him. The garage door slowly began to rise. A dozen zombies shambled in from the outside. The engine roared to life. The SUV shot forward, plowing through the zombies and crushing them under its wheels. A moment later, they were out of the camera's view. "That Rick is one ruthless bastard," Ava observed. "He used his own son as a diversion to thin out the zombies and buy himself a chance to escape. But getting out of the city, that's going to be nearly impossible." "If he does make it out," I said slowly, "I have no doubt this will be his destination." Her face paled, but then she glanced at the reinforced walls outside and some of the tension left her shoulders. 3 days later, I stood on the roof, a smile spreading across my face as I watched a battered SUV speeding towards us in the distance. "Rick Peterson, you brilliant bastard. You didn't disappoint me," I murmured, my grin widening. Of course, I wanted them to come. Letting them get eaten by zombies was one thing, But getting my revenge with my own hands, that was true satisfaction. The SUV, caked in dried blood and grime, screeched to a halt outside the gate. Rick, bearded and haggarded, stumbled out of the driver's side. Chloe, her hair a tangled mess, got out of the other. To my surprise, two beautiful young women, clearly twins, emerged for the back seat. The four of them stared up at the 15 feet high concrete wall, their faces a mixture of awe and despair. He knew the apocalypse was coming. He had to have known. Rick croaked, his voice raw and weak. K.H. shot him, a look devoid of any emotion. The twin sisters, however, looked ecstatic. "Ricky, is this the shelter you were telling us about? Open the gate. Once we're inside, we'll be safe. We'll take good care of you from now on," one of them chirped. Just then a drone zipped into view, hovering above their heads. Well, Rick, you're more resourceful than I gave you credit for," my voice echoed from the drone speaker. Rick, who was so hungry he could barely stand, nudged Chloe, trying to get her to speak. She didn't move, her eyes fixed on the wall. He cursed at her under his breath, then looked up at the drone. "Ethan, I call a truce. What do you say? Let us in. I'll be your right-hand man. Look, I even brought Chloe back to you, and then I found these two lovely sisters for you as a peace offering. Just let the past be the past. In this new world, we need to stick together." I was already standing behind Steel Gate, and I almost laughed out loud. If it weren't for this wall, he would have already tried to kill me and take everything for himself. A small rectangular slot in the gate slid open. I met Rick's gaze through the opening. The hopeful smile on his face vanished, replaced by terror. He was staring down the point of a crossbow bolt. Flip. Rick gasped, a sharp pain exploding in his chest. He looked down to see a stainless steel bolt embedded deep in his torso. "Ethan Cole, damn you to hell." He choked out, but the words died in his throat. Because K.H. had picked up a large rock from the ground and brought it down on his head with all her might. "Give me back my son. Give me back my son." She screamed, completely unhinged, bringing the rock down again and again, even after he had collapsed. She didn't stop until his head was a bloody pulp. Then she sank to the ground, sobbing hysterically. The twin sisters had scrambled away and were huddled together, shaking in fear. I watched it all unfold, letting out a long, slow sigh. After a while, K.H. looked up, her empty eyes meeting my cold stare. We locked gazes for a long moment. Then she slowly got to her feet and began to stagger away into the empty wilderness. A silver streak cut through the air. The crossbow bolt pierced through her back and out her chest. She fell to the ground and didn't get up again. The world was finally quiet outside my walls. Only two terrified twin sisters remained. Ava came to stand beside me. "What are you going to do with them?" she asked, her voice holding a strange, unreadable tone. I put on my most righteous expression. "It is said that saving a life is the noblest of all acts." Ava rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Men, you're all the same." The heavy steel gates swung open. The sisters, filled with a mixture of terror and hope for the future, stepped inside.